And good day. Welcome to today's version of the VRS Warrior Wallet. And I'm on here today with HER Realtor Extraordinaire, Annie Belisari. And we're going to talk a little bit today about just some, general, things on buying a house, some pitfalls, maybe some credit things. And just basically, one of the things we want to do on this, and especially because homes are the largest investment that most people are ever going to buy, we want to have veterans and people in general just be more well educated about buying a house. So, how you doing today?
I'm good. I'm good. It's kind of we thought this would be the slow time in real estate, and what we're finding out is there's no slow time in real estate. Still seeing, seeing a lot come on the market, even though it's close to Christmas. We had things come on the market the weekend of Thanksgiving. Still a lot of activity out there. So, it's almost a good time for buyers to be out looking. They might have a little less competition right now, not much, but a little bit. But people are still selling their houses. So if you're in the market, don't think that just because it's the holidays and it's winter that things are slowing down. So, yeah.
Right. And I think one of the things that I'm seeing out there, and especially with people, they they're going out in the marketplace. Um, so a friend of mine, and I will tell you this, and if you're older, I want to just give a little bit of advice. A friend of mine just got a 10-year arm on from Bank of America on a house in Florida, interest only for 2.5% with a balloon payment at the end of the 10 years.
Yeah.
Now, why is that important? Well, he got a $400,000 home. It was 430 and some change, but he's only paying 760 a month. And
Mhm.
so what he applies to the principal during that time, he's able to, get the price of the house down. But
Mhm.
the reason I bring this up is because banks right now are looking for customers in the form of buyers, sellers, and they're and I've seen reverse mortgages out there recently
Yeah.
too, which is something to climb on, that people are climbing on. Um,
Mhm.
One of the things that too is that I think that if you are in the market for a home, and it doesn't matter whether it's it, what have you seen as the average time um, in order to go from starting to look and knowing that you want to buy a home in 2021 or 2022, what have you seen as the average time of the process that it would take? um,
It's taking, the biggest thing is not finding one you like. The biggest thing is getting in contract because it's a competitive situation. Um, I don't see many properties that only have one offer on them. So the average time I would say is uh, 3 months is the shortest, and the longest could be a year, or more, depending on how aggressively you're looking. My clients that are really, really ready to move and they're motivated, I would say 3 months, definitely. But that's also, looking at houses continuously, all the listings I send, looking at them every day because if one pops up, we got to see it probably that next day because it's usually in contract within 5 days. So a lot of it is just being prepared and being able to have the time to see these places. So you're kind of in control as a buyer. If you want the process to be quick, then you just be prepared. You're prepared for that, and you know that this is going to consume your time for a little while, but you'll get it done faster. So
so
yeah,
there used to be a 10, it was 100, the rule of thumb was 110 to 1. So you looked at 100 listings, you went visited 10, and you could then see one that you really wanted. Is that holding up now, or is it just not even close? People will see a listing and they'll be like, nope, we're going to buy this listing right now. And
yeah. Yeah, it's not like it used to be. you don't you don't have time to wait around. You don't have time to see multiple houses. Usually, like last week, I had a client, we saw 3 in one day, um, and we wrote an offer that evening on one of the ones that we saw that day. Unfortunately, my client put in their highest and best and somebody outbid us. But you know, 3 in one day is right now is a lot. Just
Right.
because it's so competitive and it's hard to get into some of them. But we also were ready to go. She was pre-qualified. She knew how much she could spend. So we knew what we were doing with the offer. So we wrote it right after we saw it. So the timeline is just condensed now, compared to what it used to be. It used to be you saw a house, you thought about it for a week, then you saw it again, took your mom, your dad, your cousin, your neighbor,
Right.
then you might have wrote an offer after that. That's not the way. And it's still very doable. It's just setting the expectation with the client that they have to realize, how quick this process is going to go.
Right. And so one of the things that is also happening too is that let me ask you this, and this is something that's come up in conversation with some people, but people are making more um, curb offers
Yeah.
than you have seen in the past. And can you explain that a little bit
Yeah.
more to the people that are
So,
listening?
what's happening with these things we call curb offers? Um, Basically, a property pops up, either coming soon status or um, it's just listed. And a curb offer is that a buyer says, I do not need to see the house. I'm going to write you an offer. Um, and if you accept it, then some of them will then say, I have 24 hours to see the house and decide. Not a lot of them say that. The popular choice is, I'm making you this offer. I don't need to see the house to stay in contract. Um, and the sellers don't have to show the house. They don't have to get the house ready. So, some sellers are taking these curb offers. It's really risky for buyers to do this. However, I've seen it work out where they're very, very happy that they did the curb offer because they lucked out and they love the house. But they're
Right.
literally going off of internet pictures.
Right. And then for any of you people that are listening, we partner with Revolution Mortgage and Kevin
Mhm,
Laurer. If you are interested, you can go to vetloaninfo.com,
mhm.
and there's some questions that they will answer you about about buying, getting a mortgage. So,
Yep.
and one of the other things about with Kevin, with Vet Loan Info, that if you're listening to this, is he's also a specialist in credit repair.
Yes.
Because one of the things that you and one of the things that is a big misnomer is that you need a high credit score in today's market. And with banks being competitive, you can get into a house with a 610. You could probably get into he with as low as the 610 credit score. And I think one of the things that too is that also people are and let me ask you this, because this is coming up for a lot of people. Do you think that there's a that th- that people are saying that you have to come up with a down payment in today's market, or is that something, even if you're not a veteran, let's just say
Mhm.
you're just a regular home buyer, how much money do you think that people are going to have in order to get in on to get in a closing,
It's it's different across the board. Obviously, for veterans, most times they do not need to have a down payment. But it's different across the board. It depends on what kind of loan they are getting. It depends on, what employment situation, their credit score. Rule of thumb is if you're doing a conventional loan, 20%. 20% is a good rule of thumb. But that's not to say that there aren't, programs out there that will get buyers into a house for less than that. But veterans especially, that's where it's like they have so many benefits at their fingertips. And us realtors, because it is such a structured loan process, VA loans are attractive. If I have somebody selling a house, I really think the VA financing and their appraisals are very, very good. So we look at that as a very strong offer. And a lot of other agents do too. So
Right.
yeah, just it's all about talking to the financial personnel before you even go start looking, because then you have an idea of exactly what you can get. So, yeah.
Yeah. And then, the other thing is too, is that, like I said, with the Vet Loan Info, his name is Kevin Moore. We're partnering together to make sure that you have some good resources, because one of the things that you can never be too informed about buying a house.
Yeah.
And one of the other things that let me ask you this, and your opinion on this. If you're out there out and about today, and you're going to have an issue on buying a house, or you're going to what are you seeing as some of the major pitfalls out there? What are you seeing that are causing buyers and sellers some issues when they're trying to get rid of a house, trying to get it to market, trying to get it to close a deal? Are buyers being unreasonable? Are sellers being unreasonable? Closing costs?
I would say sellers are being a little unreasonable in certain situations. If a house is overpriced, they they feel offense to it when you give them that feedback, just because they think that everything is selling, three times as much as it should have, but that's not always the case. The other thing is appraisals. So when you're paying so much over a house, you have to cover the appraisal gap. So for buyers, that's a big stress.
Explain
Because
that one to it, because
yeah. So basically, so say there's a house, sale price or list price is 350,000, and I have a buyer and we're going to offer $375,000. Well, for the for that offer to be accepted, a lot of times you're going to have to say, if this house does not appraise for what I'm trying to buy it for, which is $375, if it should only appraise for 350, I will bring $25,000 cash to cover the appraisal gap.
right.
So that has to come at closing. So that's a big stressor because
Have you ever seen, do me a favor, just
yeah,
out of curiosity,
yeah.
how many times have you seen that happen? And how many times have you seen that people have done that? They go to close and they don't have the money.
We most will require proof of the funds before
Okay.
99%, because that was happening. Um, and I think they thought, well, we got to closing table, they're just gonna reduce the sale price back down to where it appraised, and that no, the deal dies.
Right.
Um, I would say I would say only probably 95% of my deals appraise. Um, and I've personally never had anybody that had to bring more than $2,000 to the closing table. I do know that there are people in the HER office who have had big numbers, like 25,000, that they've had to bring to the closing table, and they've done it. Um, and as realtors, we can't give you advice on if that's, you know, good, bad. We're not your financial planner, but
Right. As a
we
former
also
financial planner, if you paid that much, I would kill you. I
yeah,
would literally, I'm sorry, I would not kill you. I would put you in a closet,
yeah,
and I would not, because I mean, you go into a house, let's just say
yeah,
that 400,000, you offer 425,000. That
yep,
25,000, you've got to make up in appreciation, when the average home prices in America historically have been 3.2%
yeah,
in appreciation. So,
yeah,
and if you think that and one of the crazy places that I've seen this happen was people were buying houses on spec in Florida,
mhm,
and they were buying houses on spec, saying, well, we're going to turn this into an Airbnb, or and COVID hit, and a lot of these, a lot of people were, upside down because they were heavy into, whatever you want to call it. They were heavy into, the price of the home, and the mortgage was heavy. And I think the other problem is too, is that, we've had this argument with clients before. I'm a big fan of Dave Ramsey, that approach, but I'm also a big fan of Warren Buffett. And I read a lot about him, and I'm like, there are times in your life you're better off renting,
Yeah.
fixed cost, but there are other times you're better off owning a house. But if you own a house, understand the pitfalls. You're going to have to pull maintenance. You're going to have to, to do a lot of work on the house. Number two is, not only are you going to have to do work, you're going to, the minute that you move in, you're 6% down on the house, because you got to pay you. And, you can't afford that Aston Martin without, but you have to get paid. Closing costs have to get paid. And I've never seen any closing costs. I mean, the cheapest any closing costs that I've taught, is what, 2,500, 3,000. I mean, there's got to be title search.
But, yes, but there also, especially for veterans, there are programs that can help them with that. There's so many different programs. That's why it's like, don't be too afraid of it before, don't write it off until you know the facts. That's what I always tell home buyers, because they listen to people that have had these horror stories about buying in this market. And then, you have a client, that is doing all the research and using all the tools and the people that we give them. And then they're realizing, okay, I just had to be prepared. And that's all it is.
And Kevin, and again, Kevin's not here because, yesterday we had to reschedule, he had it blocked off yesterday, but we're all three of us, Kevin Lauer is our veteran specialist with Revolution More. He will help you in a lot of this and walk you through the process. And one of the things that, that you don't bring up is that if you're looking for a home, you can reach out to Annie. She will put you in contact anywhere, people in the United States. Kevin can do every state with the exception of New York. And, we are, and one of the advantages to this is there are some states that have closing costs to the buyer. I mean, that, they'll pay for a veteran. If you sell your home to a veteran, those closing costs are covered. Some of it have, some grants or, some benefits that, will help you on that. And so I think a lot of that is, reach out, because there are a lot of things for veterans out there, because it's the VA is going to guarantee a lot of it, but also, again, it is part of the it's a good deal, because you're going to be a little bit more I don't know, whatever you want to call it, secure in that they're, the down payment, which is always the big, and like the mortgages out there, sometimes you can do an interest only payment if you want, that is an option that Kevin talks about too, is that they can do, and then that gets you your monthly payment down till you can, adjust. Let me ask you another question. Where do you see the market? That people are on both sides. I mean, people are saying in 3 months, 6 months, the market is going to adjust itself. In other parts, other people are going, no, it's going to be, it's going to be steady. Where do you see this in 3 months or 6 months from now?
I think it's not going to change much in the next 6 months. I think we are we're kind of going to stay in this pattern. But I would say in a year, if interest rates creep up like they have been, and they're not high, but they're creeping, you're going to see it level out. I don't think it's going to be a huge correction. I think it's just going to return to a little more normal, even playing field. That's what I predict. I think that's going to be the correction we see. A little bit of a hike in interest rates, and I think it's gonna get a little more level of a playing field. That's my prediction. And
When you say level playing field, what do you mean by that?
I mean that it's not gonna be such a seller's market,
Okay.
and buyers aren't gonna have to fight tooth and nail for a house. So I think that that that's what's gonna happen.
Right. And I think that, and I think so too, because I think that as people are adjusting, I think that they are, I think a lot of the things that you have to adjust for is the fact
Mhm.
that, companies as a whole, um, they corporations have been going by, to turn them into Airbnbs. And I think a lot of it is that, as COVID is, whether it subsides or not,
Yeah.
it usually takes 18 months for a marketplace to adjust.
Yeah.
And I think that that's going to happen over the next, the course of the next 6 to 9 months. One of the things that concerns me is that I look at the marketplace is that sooner or later, with all this free money out there, you got to pay it back.
Yeah, and that's the
And,
problem too.
and that's a problem. I mean, the issue is that, if you're getting free money, sooner or later, that is, you're going to have, the banks are, when you're putting money out there at 3%,
Yeah,
and that doesn't even keep up with inflation. So somewhere
true.
you got to make adjustments. So
Yeah.
I mean, I think but at the end of the day, I think that, looking at it, if you're a veteran out there, like I said, one time, would do it again. It's vetloaninfo.com. Kevin Lawler is the, mortgage broker extraordinaire.
Mhm.
And reach out to Andy Belisari, realtor extraordinaire.
Yeah.
And, um, you know, we've been on for 22 minutes. Let me ask you this. Any final thoughts?
Yeah.
Anything?
My final thoughts would be, no question is a silly question when it comes to real estate. That is what I think that people, they don't ask enough questions, and so they get into this process and they get frustrated. So that is my final thought. No question is a silly question, and ask as many questions before you even start house hunting. Yep.
Um, yeah. And that is, I think that, I mean, we had that sentiment, veterans always say, there's no such thing as stupid question every once in a while, but
Yeah.
for the most part, when
Yeah,
you're making a, $300,000 investment, you've got
for
to,
sure.
kind of come up
Yes.
with something. So,
So,
um, anyway, that will conclude our show.
yeah.
We'll sign off. And then, again, if you guys are out there, reach out to us. We will put you in contact.
Yep.
Vetloaninfo.com. You can reach out to them for mortgage advice, and we will, talk to you shortly. And hold on while we sign off. And thank you again for supporting VRS.